This is a negotiating story about a man who knocked on our front door offering to trim the hedge, cut the hedge. We've got a hedge in between our front garden and the road. It's only a small front garden. I'm supposed to cut the hedge, but I never do because it takes me all day. So it gets more and more out of control. And it was really pretty unruly at this point. I was away doing a training course as usual. My wife answered the doorbell and there was this guy and he barked at her. He went, "Trim your hedge, madam." And she went, "Oh, I don't know. My husband normally cuts it. How much would it cost?" Now, what do you think would be the going rate for a hedge to be cut? Because I have no idea. I've never paid someone to do it before. I don't know. I know it takes me a day. I suspect he could do it in an hour, but he'd have to get there with his car and his tools. I don't know. So have a think to yourself a moment. What do you think would be a reasonable price to have your hedge cut? So she asked him, and he said £40. And my wife said, "Oh, well, I'm not authorised to spend £40 without checking with my husband first." Of course, it isn't true, but that's what she said. And he said, "Right, well, when's he back?" And she said, "Oh, he'll be back tonight." And he said, "Right, I'll phone tonight. Goodbye." And off he went. So when I got home, the first thing my wife said to me wasn't, "Welcome home, darling." It was, "Oh my God, this bloke's knocked on the door and he wants to cut the hedge and he quoted 40 quid. He's going to ring back. What do we do?" And I thought, well, he probably won't ring back because they never do. But I decided that if he did, I'd try and get it for less. And I decided that the most I would pay was 30. I don't know where that figure of 30 came from. It's just how mean I am, really. I'd rather cut it myself than pay £35. I'd rather spend a whole day of my time than spend £35 or £40 on a head, which is ridiculous, really. But I decided that 30 was my limit. Always set your limit. That's rule number one. So I thought he wouldn't ring back, but he did. So he rang back, and my wife answered the phone, and the bloke said, "Well, so what about this hedge then?" And my wife said, "Well, my husband says that £40 is a bit expensive." And the hedge guy said, "Right, put him on then." So she said to me, "He wants to talk to you." So she passed the phone across to me, and the bloke said, "Oh, 40 quid's too much, is it?" And I said, "Well, I think it is." He said, "All right, I'll do it for 30. Now, what should I do at this point? He's come down from 40 to 30. I can afford 30. 30 is my maximum. I usually find when I do training courses that half the people say take the 30 and the other half say no, he'll go further. I've got a rule there's always the same amount again because people tend to halve between where they are and where they're prepared to go to. So they tend to halve. So if he goes from 40 to 30, I'm thinking he'll go down to 20. Plus, if I agree to the 30, that's my worst acceptable outcome, isn't it? My 30, that's my limit. So I don't really want to agree to 30, not without at least trying. So I said to him, "No, I think 30 is still a bit much." And he said, "Well, you can F off then." And he hung up. And I'm just thinking, what? And my wife's going, "What's he saying? What's he saying?" And I'm going, "He's gone." So I rang him back up. No, I didn't. I thought, I'm not going to phone him back. He's a horrible, nasty man. And I think, rule number one with all this is be nice. And that's really the first thing that the hedge trimmer did badly. He wasn't nice. And in the end, I had to cut the hedge myself. It took me all day. It was a complete lose-lose situation. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, did I do anything wrong? I still don't think I should have taken the offer of 30. Because 9 times out of 10, if you say, "Well, I think it's still a bit much," they'll come down to 25. And it's worth it for the 9 out of 10. But you will lose 1 out of 10. And of course, in real life, if he's the only hedge trimmer in the world, you can ring him back up. You can always crumble if you have to. But in this particular case, there were lots of other options. I could have rung up some other hedge trimming people if I'd wanted. So I don't think I made a mistake in saying I wanted him to go below 30. But let's just think about what he did wrong, apart from being rude. What else did he do wrong? Well, I think for a start, he didn't persist. So when I said 40, that 30 was still a bit much, he should have said, "Well, I can't go below 30. I've got my costs, I've got I've got the van, it's going to take me quite a while." So he gave up too quickly, just telling me to F off. And every time I said, "Well, I still think you could go a bit lower," he could have said, "No, I just can't." And there is an element of persisting in good negotiations. He also should have justified. And he should have said, "Well, it's going to take me a whole hour. Wear and tear on my tools is this much." So he should have had some story that justified the 30. So he didn't persist and he didn't justify. Also, if you look at the numbers, he went from 40 to 30. That's too big a jump. It's 25%. So far too big a jump. It's also round numbers. So the 40 sounds like a made-up number. The 30 sounds like a made-up number. So he should have quoted me £42.21, because that's based on the cubic volume of the hedge plus 1.3 factor because it contains holly. Then there's the travel, which is 8 miles at 40 mpg. So he should have come to some obscure number. 40 just sounds made up. It's asking to be attacked. So it's too round a number, too big a jump. He also jumped straight to his limit, which was a mistake because then he had nowhere to go. And he should have gone halfway to his limit, or less than that even. It should have moved in smaller amounts. The final thing he didn't do is he didn't trade. So what he should have done is said, if you gave me cash, I could do it for 37. If you gave me tea and biscuits, chocolate biscuits, mind, I could do it for 35. If you booked me several times over the next year, then I could come each time for 32. If you got me to do your lawn as well for 20 quid, then I could do the hedge for 30. If I could put up a sign saying hedge trimmed by Dave to advertise to your neighbours, then I do it for 28. In fact, if you can get together with your neighbour and I do both hedges, I'll do his for 40, I'll do yours for 25. He could have come all the way down in exchange for all those things, and it would have been worth it. To get all those things for 25 instead of 40, only 15 quid off, he could have got all those things. That would have been brilliant for him. And they were things I could easily give him. It would have been a real win-win, because he'd have got a load of great stuff, I'd have got a bargain, I'd have actually been glad to put a sign up saying hedge trimmed by Dave. It would have made me look as if I've got my own hedge man. Would have made me look important. I would have quite liked it. So there were all these unexplored tradables we never got, because he just told me to F off straight away. Now, a final thought, I could have initiated those tradables. I could have said, if you give me a cheaper price, then I'll book you 3 times over the coming year. If you give me a cheaper price, we could put a sign up. But I don't think it's my job. Well, first of all, I didn't have time to suggest. I was only getting started when he hung up. But also, I don't think it's my job to think of those tradables, because he is a regular hedge-cutting man. So he should know his own game. I don't often negotiate with hedge cutters, so I don't know what the options are. I'd have to think about them. But he should have thought about those tradables beforehand and have them ready, like a sort of pack of cards that he can play when he needs to come down in price. Have them ready, some big ones, some small ones, so that he can negotiate. And that's what he should do. I nearly rang him back up and said, do you want some negotiating training in exchange for cutting my hedge? But I thought, no, I don't want to really see him again. He was a very unpleasant man. And, you know, perhaps rule number 1 is to be nice when you negotiate, because you're bound to get a better deal if you're nice.